You're listening to Heroes in the Moment. What's up, heroes? I'm Michael.
And I'm Nathan.
And today, the Andor finale.
The finale, season 1.
Yes, and we hope you all had a great Thanksgiving with your families.
Happy Thanksgiving.
We are hoping that you came safely from the Shopping Friday as well. But we're here today to break down the finale.
The finale. Episode 12.
Episode 12. Nathan, what'd you think?
Man, bro, I think it's disappointing. Honestly, me and Michael, we just finished watching it. And man, listen, I understand that they're planning to do multiple seasons, but nothing really happened in this. Like, I could have told you everything that was going to happen.
Yes.
And even the end credit scene, like, that doesn't add anything to it, you know?
It did, and it will. And we'll talk about that more in depth because that was an amazing end credit scene. But I agree with what you're saying. That the finale itself was disappointing.
Like, everything was just over dramatic. You know, there was no... The only thing that really led to another season was like the very end scene with Andor and Luthen, you know, and we found out what they've been building, you know, and obviously we've already seen that whole thing, you know, in the movie. So it's like, I was disappointed.
Right. I understand. Like the buildup wasn't there. Like, you know, each episode, or at least the way I see Andor is a show divided up into like three main stories, right? You have the first 3 episodes that surrounds him on Ferrix, right?
Yeah.
Just living his life, killing 2 guards, dealing with those issues. And then you have the next 3 episodes, 4, 5, and 6, dealing with Andor and this group he gets placed with in order to do acts of rebellion. And then 7, 8, well, 7 was kind of a transitional piece episode, right?
Like 8
and then 8, 9, 10 was the prison,
right?
You had the prison episodes, and then 11 and 12 were the conclusion of season 1, and they were also splattered out of the way in so many different themes, so many different directions and things that it didn't accumulate to as much of a finale as it could have been and should have been.
Yeah, it doesn't mesh well, like you said.
Right.
There's so many different stuff going on, and we see so many different storylines and plots, but like you said, like it's split up into those sectors, and it just doesn't work.
Right.
Like, by far, like, you could have honestly ended somewhere around 10. Or like the stuff that had happened, that wasn't finale worthy. You could have put that before 10.
I think 10 would have been a good finale,
and
actually.
And it ends with him on the planet, right? You know, like that would have been...
I think that would have been a better finale. I agree.
I agree, man.
Because, again, it leaves some not plot holes, but some unanswered questions that needed to be addressed in this season that they left for, I guess, another season, which I did not appreciate. Speaking mostly of where is Kino Loy.
Yeah.
They never explained what happened to him. He just couldn't swim, and that was the end of it. So I want to see what happened to Kino. I want to see him back again, and I don't know when we're going to get him and how long it's going to be.
One way out, except if you can swim.
I know. And that's why I agree. Like, episode 10 would have been such a good finale, right? Him breaking out of prison, Kino left, the issues going on with Mon Mothma, and what she's going to have to do with possibly her daughter, and all these other issues going on. It would have been such a better finale. And it had a great ending with him breaking out of prison that I think it would have been better.
It would have served well, especially with how good 10 was, dude. At least for me personally, these last 2 episodes have just dragged on.
For sure, definitely. You know? And that's the thing is, you know, Star Wars is famous for fillers, and this show had quite a few. And I would consider the finale a filler, really. I mean, I would consider,
honestly. I mean,
I think the standout filler episodes would be probably 2, 4, 5, 7, 11, and 12, if I'm being honest, are probably the standout filler episodes. And those episodes probably weren't that necessary. I think they could have easily manipulated. I know we asked for longer shows, but I think 10 would have been a good number for this show. Fine, that's the Netflix formula, and it's a good formula. So I think that 10 would have fit well instead of a good 12. But I hope season 2 will improve on that, and we'll see where it goes. Because, I mean, even though we say these things and the finale wasn't what we wanted it to be, it was still a good show. So I will say
it was still one of the best things they made recently.
For sure. So that's just that for the build up. So to get into the episode breakdown, so everyone just appeared on Ferrix, right? That was a bit weird too. Like literally everybody,
no journeys.
I know.
Everyone shows up.
Everybody was just there. You had Cyril; he was already there. Daedra was over here.
Cyril's homie that he used to work with.
Luthen.
Obviously, Luthen.
The only one that wasn't there was Mon Mothma because she was dealing with stuff with Coruscant.
And Cinta.
Yes, Andor was the side plot of this episode.
No, Andor really was.
Yeah,
like, I could probably name like 3 or 4 characters, side characters, who had more screen time than he did in this episode.
Sure. So
and a bunch of random characters we don't even know their names. They got like a lot of screen time.
Exactly.
Too.
It was really odd because the whole plot of Andor this episode was just to get Bix out and literally like leave. That was pretty much all he did.
Not like really. He watched it, left, got Bix, and left.
I know. He didn't even mention his mother like at the funeral. This was his funeral, her funeral, and he didn't even mention he didn't even like think about her funeral. He was like getting Bix out was the only purpose.
I know.
Like if I was the director and the writer of this show, I would have had him stop and had like an emotional scene to where he's watching his mother's speech and like have a breakdown.
Yeah.
That's what I would have included just to see a little bit more connection to him instead of him just being like, Bix, who cares about my mom? He's dead.
Well, he watched it in the beginning, but I don't think he was around for the whole like hologram part.
No.
He watches it and then they go up to his tower, then he dips to get Bix.
Right,
but it's just, it was written poorly, man.
It could have been a little bit better, and the emotional stakes that they thought that they had did not
this episode
over, right?
Even very early in the episode, you can tell that it's very dramatic. Like there's a big old soundtrack.
Right.
You get a lot of close up, like personal shots. Be like, dude, he's just driving to a planet.
Right.
Like, oh, he's just drinking a cup of water. We don't need a dramatic close up.
No. I mean, it was just so dramatic for what? Like, there was nothing that was like deserving of that within this episode.
Yeah.
Like this episode could have easily this was not a finale. This was more of a continuation.
Yeah.
And I know it's a continuous show of 5 seasons probably. But I wouldn't be surprised if they cut it down to 3. I think that would be more reasonable because 5's just so many. That's like
I know
5 or that's even like more than that. If it goes by Netflix terms, that's like 2 years like every 2 years a season. That's like 10 years before we get to this like finale.
Oh man,
I don't want that.
No, I don't want it either. And I don't think they're just that much to explore. I know the first season was all about like laying the groundwork, with Mon Mothma and trying to fund the rebels coming up. It's just I don't want to see 5 seasons.
So I think 3 would be good.
Yeah.
3 is a good number with anything with these kind of shows because when it comes to shows like Star Wars or Marvel, they already have movies and other shows that build around them and are in the same interconnected universe. They don't need multiple season shows. It's not its own thing.
Yeah.
So 3, I feel like it's a good number for a show like Andor.
Yeah.
Like similar to what Mando's getting. I don't know if he's getting more or not, probably, but I think that's a better number, but we'll see with that. So then with the other episode, we have several different plots that, of course, merged together, but at the same time, they were still different plots in this episode.
Yeah.
So you had Cyril, who's just sitting over here looking all like, I want to kill Andor for no reason at all.
I hate Hyrule, man. I really do.
I know. And then, of course, he has this love moment with Daedra that was so stupid to me.
So dumb, man.
But then again, I thought it was so funny the way she was getting beat up.
She was getting rocked, man.
It was so funny.
A rock hits her face, and then she screams, and her face like pure agony lying on the floor. And then someone just like runs, like kicks her. I'm like, that's so random.
So fun. And then like right after that, the dude who's beating the bell just pushes the stormtrooper off.
I know. He's like, just falls down.
That was so funny.
What is happening? They see like 8 dudes just start like jumping on Deidre, and somehow Cyril pulls her up.
Yes.
I don't understand.
Right. Now the one thing I did like about this episode was the tension to where you had the Empire there, and then of course the rebellion after the funeral, after Marva's speech. That made sense, and that was cool.
But it weren't no surprise. Like we both saw it coming,
right?
Like,
for sure.
They're gonna start fighting.
They're gonna do some stuff that they'll regret later. So
because they don't have guns.
They don't have weapons, and of course a lot of them died.
Yeah,
which makes sense. Which honestly, all these characters pretty much have to die except for Andor going into Rogue One. So we'll see what happens there,
man.
But yeah, like it just didn't like that part was good, but then the rest of it with the character, I feel like what struggled this episode was the characters. I feel like the characters in this episode struggled and brought it down, minus the Mon Mothma part of this episode, because the Mon Mothma parts were good. Like you said,
that has honestly become probably my favorite part of this show. Not that I'm a huge Mon Mothma fan, but her actress has been killing it. Like that plot is very like compelling, right?
Right, it is.
This
it is.
public senator under the weight of this, trying to,
they're trying everything to
make her
bring
bank
her
account,
and,
like seem legit, and then the stuff with her daughter, and then all the like the gambling stuff this episode, like putting it on her husband, like that stuff was crazy. Like
it was.
That's interesting,
right?
And you can feel for that characters. But I think going into this episode, the writers assumed that we'd be so attached to these characters and their stories that have already happened that we'd be like really worried for them, in this episode. I don't think any of us were.
No. I agree.
That's why it's so dramatic, but I don't think any of the viewers will see it in that light.
Yes, I understand completely, and it was just it was such an episode that really just did not get into it. And I know a lot of people online have been talking about like, oh, it was a good finale. It was a good ending. It's one of the best Star Wars shows, which I agree. It is one of the best Star Wars shows, but the finale just didn't hit like it should have, right?
It's disappointing. It's disappointing.
So with that being said, like, honestly, I don't have there's not a whole lot to get into. Like, we pretty much covered what the finale captured. That's how poorly it was, really. So what we need to spend a little bit of time on is we'll talk about the Luthen ending and then the end credit scene. So, of course, Andor sends his people off, his Bix and his friend, the people from Ferrex off.
Just kind of weird that all the friends get off, but, like, meanwhile, on the other side, like, all the civilians are getting slaughtered.
I know, like
I found that part, like, really weird. Like, I'm not sure if that was taking part at the same time. But, like, they were just getting slaughtered over there, and they're just rushing people out in planes. Like,
and I thought it, like, weird. Like, why wouldn't Andor not join them?
Yeah, why wouldn't he be fighting?
Why would he not go with them?
Luthen, too. Why, why was, like, Luthen will not, like, you know, in the gunfight, or Val and Cinta. Why would not in the gunfight, you know?
It didn't make sense with those
things.
They
played that civilian versus the Empire fight so big, and nothing happened.
No, not that
they just
anything
cool, people,
right?
A lot of them died, and then, like, the cameras just go away. Like, there's no indication that the fight stopped.
Right.
You know?
That I completely agree.
It's weird, man.
It did not. And then, of course, they jet off. Andor goes to confront Luthen, and Luthen, for some reason, is just going to kill Andor for no reason.
Apparently, he's still, tying up loose ends.
Which is so stupid. Like, you're the one who hired Andor, or as he says, Andor. And
I just feel like the writers are trying really hard right now to make us not like Luthen. I feel like it's not at a place where we can empathize with the hard decisions he has to make, right? With making those tough decisions.
Right.
I feel like they're just like, in the last few episodes, trying to make us dislike him after building up like this really cool, complex character. And they're like, yeah, let's go kill Andor.
Right.
The guy we specifically recruited for the first half of the show.
I still love Luthen, and I just didn't appreciate what they were doing with his character in the later parts of the episode. And the show itself. But, so I don't know what's going on. So now of course, Andor's like, you can either kill me or you can take me in. And so Luthen smiles and gives a little smirk and then takes him in.
Gives him his gun. It was just weird. You know, the Empire was there to kill Andor. Luthen was there to kill him.
Yep.
And then in the moment he decided, you know what, by the way, I'm going to take you in. Yep. Like,
I know.
That betrays his values, like who he is in the core.
Again, like the build up to like, there was no reasoning for Luthen to want to kill Andor, and it didn't show that well at all.
And that, I feel like that implies he's a coward too. I don't know if Luthen was personally planning on killing Andor, but when he had to do it himself, he was like, nah, I'm not going to do it. So I lost respect for him, man, honestly, during that.
Yeah, it did not fit well with what the show is trying to accomplish with that. So I don't know. So the show ends, and then we go over to the finale, or not the finale, but the end credit scene. And this end credit scene, I will say, did get me hype, and it was amazing. And in this end credit scene, we see, of course, the weapons that they were building in the prison, and we called it. Yeah. It was the construction of the Death Star.
Of the Death Star, yeah.
And
it was holding it in place, yeah.
We see it coming together in the finale, which I thought was beautiful because we've never seen like the construction of the Death Star like that
before, yeah.
And that was awesome to me, and I that definitely left a good taste in my mouth after the finale being kind of a downer.
Yeah.
So I did appreciate that.
Ooh, Star Wars.
Now we're in Star Wars now. So I mean,
hopefully we'll get to see some of Vader or Palpatine in the future now that we're the Death Star.
You know, this is a huge buildup because I think what we'll get in the future of this episode is we'll see them finding out about the Death Star or hearing rumors. We'll see more of the construction of the Death Star and how that's kind of a crucial aspect of the Empire at the time.
Yeah.
So I think they'll put a big focus on that in season 2. And again, like you said, maybe a cameo from Palpatine or Vader. But honestly, like those two characters being as big as they are, they don't really fit in this particular show.
In this show.
So maybe a Grand Admiral Thrawn. Again, I keep saying him because he just makes sense in the show so much that I think he would be a good addition in season 2 or even season 3 or whatever. But I don't know, but I think it's a cool idea to get into the construction of it.
And then obviously on the other side, we'll see, Andor doing all this rebellious missions, with Luthen, which would be a weird relationship, because he was trying to kill him earlier, but
But I do like the fact of seeing like both of them like maybe together throughout the entire season.
I mean that's definitely a bonus, and I think that'll put a lot more people as compared like splitting time up.
Right, right. I completely agree. All right, so did you have anything else to add before we get into our rankings of Andor the finale?
Like I said, not really. It's again, pretty much basic. Like you said, the whole episode just stick with that. Funeral, tensions boil over. He rescues Bix and his friends. Luthen's there to kill him, and so is everybody else. Like, it's just very basic. Right. So, like I said, that's pretty much all that happened.
I know, and that's unfortunate.
And then Mon Mothma was a cool part. But
it was. All right, so to get into, and we see, of course, that they meet the girl meets the boy and stuff. So.
Oh, yeah, bro. Yeah, we got to talk about that really quick. That was one of the most cheesy scenes I've ever seen. I mean, honestly, it's cool to see, Mothma's character, developing. She realizes, gotta make some personal sacrifices sometimes, including your family, when it comes to fighting this war. And she got her husband there, who's a complete jerk. She got her daughter there, who's a typical teenage girl. And the elevator opens up, and like the wife of the banker and the son like turned around, and then they do the spit and they stare at each other.
They're like, "Oh, there's a tension here. I'm gonna be into this guy."
What is this?
I know.
It was so weird, man. It was just cheesy, and that's all we got to see. Like no conversations to cut it. We should have seen like some dialogue with that.
Yeah,
like hey, I don't like you. Why are you here? Like
they should have done something. I don't know.
Cheesy.
All right, so now we're going to rank it. Do you want to go first? Okay. You want me to go first?
Ranking first season.
Ranking the first season of Andor on a scale of 1 to 10.
1 to 10. Listen, man. Andor definitely has been probably my favorite live action Star Wars project since Mando season 2. I think that's pretty clear.
That's fair. Yeah.
That's fair, definitely.
That's definitely fair.
I'm going to go with a 7.5.
Okay.
For season 1. 7.5 is solid. Like you said, episode 6, episode 10, episode 3. They got some really gems of an episode.
For sure.
But I feel like those like little fillers just build like up to those 3 high points during the show. Yes. So like I said, I wish it was consistent. It's not, but like nonetheless, it's still a much better written overall show than a lot of stuff we've seen in the past.
Would you say that it would be higher in ranking if they subtracted episode 11 and 12 from the series?
For sure. I would have easily bumped up to an 8 because that just would have cleared stuff off and left a clear cliffhanger. Like more so than I feel like we got with episode 12.
Yeah. Okay.
So 7.5 we're settling.
I agree. That's solid. I think I'm going to give it a 7. I think I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Like you said, I think it would have definitely gone up in points if it ended with episode 10 and got rid of 11 and 12. Like you said, it had those huge, amazing high points in 3, 6, and 10, which were phenomenal episodes. Like if I was rating those episodes individually, they'd be in the 9s. So that's really cool. But with the other fillers and the slow part and the underwhelming finale, I think 7's solid. Like you said, like it's one of the best Star Wars projects we've gotten. And it's really, really was a good show, good CGI, good effects and stuff.
Yeah, cinematography was great.
Right.
Thanks for not using so many green screens.
Exactly. Thank you for that. I do appreciate. But the ultimate build up to the accumulation of the finale was a big letdown for me. Yeah. So I think a 7 is probably like the score.
All right, solid, baby.
Yeah, solid.
All right, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, let us know by giving us a review and a download. Our podcast, Here's in the Moment, is available on all major podcast platforms, so check us out. Speaking of, our latest episode was Andor 10/11 breakdown, so go ahead and check that sucker out. If you want to stay up to date on all of our news, new episodes, our updates, check out the socials, Instagram at Here's in the Moment, and TikTok at Here's in the Moment with an extra T.
Yeah, and we just want to thank y'all for listening. And as always, we love you 3000.